Good to have you back on the program. You're still watching Business Africa. Anti-money laundering in Gabon. Very little progress has been made by the authorities to reverse the trend. An NGO is turning the page on the silence of authorities expected to conduct investigations to bring the matter before the competent court. A few months ago, the Action Group Against Money Laundering in Central Africa denounced the extent of corruption and money laundering in the real estate sector in Gabon. Wahani and Philemon have the details.
Libreville, the capital of Gabon. Buried in these large fancy buildings is a money laundering scheme. Real estate is one of the sectors considered to be the melting point of this scourge that is plaguing the country. The NGO Let's Turn the Page Gabon and other bodies have been ringing alarm bells that seem not to be sounding. This is a scandal, and it goes on and on. As long as at the national level there are no efforts to put an end to this. We have the ANIF, which is normally responsible for conducting such investigations, the National Commission to Combat Illicit Enrichment, which does nothing. Public servants and those close to power are often singled out. However, in Gabon, the law prohibits senior public officials and members of government from doing business in parallel with their duties. This is generally incompatible with the functions of a credit administrator. You cannot be a credit administrator at the same time a businessman. It's completely incompatible. So on this issue, it will be really necessary for the text to be respected at this level. The Action Group Against Money Laundering in Central Africa is also calling for stricter measures and already in September highlighted Gabon as a cause for concern.
The Nigerian government and the Nigerian subsidiary of the South African telecoms group MTN finally reached an agreement after a court battle lasting nearly 3 years. The dispute between the two parties was for $8.13 billion. And according to the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Southern African group has provided additional information and documents clarifying its remittances. Wahani Johnson Thambo and Philemon Mbali have the details.
MTN settles its dispute in Nigeria. The two sides reach an agreement after more than 3 years in intense legal battle. The dispute concerned $8.13 billion that Nigeria, through its central bank, accused the mobile phone operator of illegally repatriating it to its South Africa base between 2007 and 2015. This resulted in sanctions for 4 commercial banks which were involved in the transfer. CBN said on Monday in a statement that the South African group had provided additional information and documents clarifying its remittances. But MTN, according to Nigerian media reports, had to pay $53 million penalty to settle the case with CBN. Further discussions are also announced with the penalized banks on how to manage their sanctions. The agreement effectively lead to the closure of cases brought before the courts, the central bank also announced. The South African giant was fined $5.2 billion in 2015 by the Nigerian telecom regulator for failing to disconnect unregistered SIM cards on its network. The fine was then trimmed to $1.7 billion after negotiations with the Nigerian government.
Well, that's it for this edition of Business Africa. Thanks for your time. Remember that you can send us your comments and suggestions on Twitter at Kenga1 and on Facebook, Amel Inga. You can also follow us on Africanews and at Africanews FR pages for French.